Well, good morning, and thanks for venturing out in this gift of snow this morning, And a special shout out and greetings to our Catholic school families and staff and teachers who are here. This Deacon brought to you partially by Blessed Sacrament Catholic School, Grand Rapids Catholic Central, Aquinas College, and St. Leo University. So a little Catholic education in front of you here as well. And a couple of years of public school. All teachers are important to us. I know the corner. The intersection of Rains and Ross roads is about 2 miles from the warehouse that I sometimes work from in Memphis. When I'm there, I drive through that intersection twice a day. If you've paid any attention to the news this week, you may recognize the street names. I won't repeat the unspeakable reality of what happened to Tyree Nichols there, but it shakes me to the core. Ukraine, Central Africa and the Congo, Syria, Ethiopia, Chicago, Memphis. The list goes on and on, doesn't it? Doesn't it also seem to be the case that in most instances of unspeakable violence and war, that it's the poor and the powerless who remain, caught in the crossfire and the conflict, with nowhere to go, no place to hide, no refuge, no salvation from the terror, no one to rescue them. We again ask ourselves, in the midst of complete and utter chaos, and those times and places that even the world seems to have abandoned, when humanity has been drained from history, when depravity is the only word that comes close to describing things as they are, where is God's kingdom? When will it come? We heard today in our first reading from Zephaniah. The prophet Zephaniah preached in the time just before the Babylonian exile. And if you want fire and brimstone, Zephaniah is your guy. He could see the impending destruction of that kingdom. He could see the idolatry and the false worship, how political and religious leaders had emboldened themselves to the point of losing sight of God's law. They led their people astray, worshiping false idols and leaving widows and orphans uncared for. He warned of the destruction, and yet he held out just a bit of hope for rescue, for salvation, for restoration, even if only for a remnant of the people. Zephaniah said, "Seek the Lord. Seek justice. Seek humility." He goes on with a shred of hope to say, "Perhaps you will be sheltered." Perhaps. Some of us know that sometimes perhaps is all we have, all we can hope for. That's poverty. Perhaps I'll eat today. Perhaps I'll find shelter tonight. Perhaps I'll have safe drinking water for my kids today. Perhaps the justice system won't be stacked against me this time. Perhaps. God's heart and God's law has a privileged and special place for the Anawim, as the Hebrew says, the material poor, those who, in the face of troubles and calamity, must rely completely on God's mercy for their daily bread. Material poverty and our own internal poverty indicate a lack, an emptiness, a need for help from outside our own ability to provide. And God is close to those who are empty before him. And because of their privileged place in God's heart, God commands of us special care for the poor. In the Beatitudes that we hear today, Jesus heads up the mountain, sits down, and invites us to a new life. He gives his disciples 10 invitations to love. And the Greek word that we clumsily translate blessed implies a gift given to those who live according to God's plan. It speaks to a privileged sharing in God's life. The Beatitude invitations indicate to us the how through which we find God's favor, here and now and forever. And it starts with our poverty. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Those who are privileged in God's eyes stand empty before him. A hopeful remnant, clinging to, proclaiming, and living God's justice, and nothing else. These are a humble and lowly people, seeking only righteousness and peace, observing God's law, even when nobody else in the world is. From the prophet Zephaniah to the words of Jesus Christ today, we hear again the high value God places on lowliness, humility, trusting only in God's help. We are commanded to value God's justice and wisdom above the wisdom of the world. And that command must impact me this week as I process and respond to what happened near the intersection of Rains and Ross Roads in Memphis, and how I react and respond to each day's events. It doesn't seem that the violence is subsiding, does it? The talking heads aren't leading us toward a kingdom of peace and justice, are they? What do we value? What's important to us? What will you stand for? God's will is realized through those who humble themselves before him, who listen to his word, and who obey him in their attitude and in their words and in their actions. Thy kingdom come. We'll pray again in a few minutes. What part will you play in that work this week?